Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a computer programming instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to display some data that we've gotten from a database. So here we have a command that we sent to our database, select row ID from and everything else from table demo. And if we ran this, what we get is we get this information as a list of tuples. Well, this isn't a great way to display it to the user, so we're going to improve that a little bit. What we'll do is let's make a well, first off, let's make this into a function. So this function will get data, and then what we'll do is we'll say data is equal to get all from TBL demo, and then we'll print it. And we can see that does, let's go up a little bit. We have to return the data. So now we can see that we get all of the same data. Well, it'd be nice to have a function then that would display that. So we could do this. We could say define display data, and we'll bring in data. And then what we'll do is, well, let's start doing a for line in data print line. And rather than print data, we will call our display data function. And so now we can see that this is being printed as a tuple. And what we could do then is display each element and if we use print, it's going to put a carriage return between each one. So maybe what we'll do is we're going to say something like this: format is equal to, and in this instance, actually, %s, 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 %s. We'll do that first, and we'll print. And so rather than do this, what we'll do is we'll say print line % format. And so it's going to use this format to format this line, which means it's going to put one element in each location. Oh, got this backwards. Print format % line. And now we can see it displays it. And we could also do this. We could say, hey, take 10 characters for each one of these by putting the number we want between each one of those % and the s's. And that does that. And then maybe we want them to be left justified. So we put a minus next to each one here. And now I've got a nice little table going. And what I could do then is I could take this format, bring it to the outside here, and say print. And then I could put, and then I could say column headers is equal to, and I'll make a tuple with index num1, num2, and text. And then we can print format column headers. And so using the same format for both of these, you take a look. %. Now we can see that we have our column headers lined up with our headers, and we get a nicely formatted table here. And maybe at the end, we'll do a print to put an extra line always after the end of each one of these. And we get a nicely formatted table. So that's one way of displaying the data. There's obviously a lot. And then maybe we want to also have something that gets just one element. So we can, so here what we want is we just want to get one. And so we'll bring in an index number, and we're going to add something called a where clause. And we're putting a question mark here. Now we need to substitute that question mark. So we're going to put in index here. And so what this will do is it'll put index and place this question mark. So if we say we want item 1, we'll get item 1. And so maybe what we'll do is we'll display the data, and then we'll say index or selected index is equal to int, and we'll ask user, please enter index to display. And then what we could do is we've got this get, we'll call it get item from table demo because we have one index. So we will say so we'll pass that selected index, we'll get this, and just to see what we're getting, let's just print item data. And so we'll run this, and we'll say 2, and let's see. Unsupported type, and the problem was line 9. So I think this came in as a string. And so we'll just make sure that this is an integer right here. And we'll try it again. Oh, maybe it needs to be a string. So let's undo that. And where else do I convert it to an integer? And that worked. Okay, so note that we think that this row ID is an integer because it looks like an integer, but it's really a string. So we're going to keep it as a string when we get the index, and when we pass it to get individual item. So now we've got this. Well, this looks okay, but it'd be nice to have some way of displaying this better. So maybe what we'll do is we'll make a function called display item, and we're going to get a piece of data in there that's going to look like that tuple. Notice it's a list of tuples. So actually, we kind of don't want that. We'll put pass on here for a second. And I want to just get the tuple out of that. So if we know here that we're just getting 1, I'm going to put 0 here. That will get the 0th one. So what happens now is when we get this item, notice we don't have it in a list anymore. Before we had it in a list. By putting this, get me just the first element of it, bring it back, I now just get just that one item. And the reason why this happens is because fetch-all is designed to get a list of items. But this query is designed to, with the where clause, to only get one item. So we need to extract out just the one item we need for this to work. So now we are going to make a display item method. We've got our data coming in, and it's going to look like this. And I think I'm going to want to display them all one after the other with their fields. So I think I'm just going to do something like this. I'm going to print as a format row ID, and then data at 0. F. After row ID, we have num1. And really we're going to do this 3 times, num2, and text. And then we're going to get each subsequent items like this. And then that way we can use this nicely formatted display item method. And then if I want to display the item, I get it like this. Now, here it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it because we can display everything in one table. But if you had a table where each one of these had maybe 15, 20 different elements, you wouldn't want them to display all in the table. So you would display typically some identifying, the elements that really identify the object, and then you would display them here. So maybe what you might end up doing is something like this. You would say, you know what, we just want the index and the text, and we'll get the number data out of there. So we'll just do that. We'll take out these 2 middle ones. And then we don't want the entire line. So what we would do is for line in data, we would do something in here like say elements that we want is equal to a tuple with line index 0 and line index, in this case, -1. So we'll take the first and last elements here and display them here. And we'll display that. So we end up getting this. And then here's where we get the rest of the data. So that's the list view, and then that's the detail view. Now, if we look at this, it's interesting because we're starting to see a pattern with our here we have these get methods which are working with the database, and then we see these display methods which are working with basically the view to the user. So we could do this. We could make a and we often call this a repository. And we could say, you know what, my DB app, these functions here which work with the database, I'm going to take them out of here and I'm going to place them in this repository. We're going to need to import SQLite 3 for this to work. And then this display functions, and then we can bring that back in from DBL demo repo import. I'll import everything. Brings it back in. This will still work the same way. And then this I could take and I'll make another module called dbviewer, dbview.py. I'll put that in here. This really governs the view of the database. Now that's my program, and then I can make this my main. And we have a nice, concise nicely modularized system where we're going to put all the functions to get things from the database or work with the database here, and then we're going to do the init here. So this is now set up to get to view things, to get output, and then this view is used to format the output. Thank you.